Hey everybody, Mark McCrae here, and today we are going to go over the quad drawing of a hand in Maya. I'm doing this over a time lapse of me working rather than talking while I'm working because one, I find that I work a lot smoother and faster when I'm not talking while trying to explain what I'm doing. So I figured I'd try this method instead. Plus it makes for a quicker video, and I think I can get all the information needed through with this way. And you can always pause and take a look at different parts of the video if you're, you know, not picking up some of the edge flow and some of the stuff that was done quite right. Um, but hopefully this works better. So you can see that I basically just started with a eight-sided ring around the middle finger, and then I just started building out from there. Um, Eight-sided is pretty standard for me. I think that gives a good quality finger. Um, the lowest I would probably say to go is six, but eight is probably best. Two on the top, two on the sides, and two on the bottom is really great. And then you just figure out how you want to meet the fingers together from there. I like two strips between the fingers for good deformation. There's definitely an argument that you can do it with just a single strip. I guess it just depends how much detail you want to be put in there and the quality of the deformation. If the hands aren't going to be seen a whole lot up close, then you can definitely get away with, cutting those polygons down a bit. Um, and the nice thing about the eight ring flow is that you can increase it very easily. You can add a lot of extra detail to it if needed for, for any projects where the hands are going to be more of a focus. Um, there's a lot of different ways, and I go into at the end of the video a few little different little things to add extra detail to it and how to add detail to it. But yeah, you're just copying finger to finger to finger. It's pretty simple at this point. The tough part starts getting into when you start trying to pull stuff together. Um, but one thing you see me doing here is I'm constantly adjusting my vertices to try and match the uh, organic flow of the fingers. So you'll see me, double checking that, I've got the polys matching up with where the finger bends, that those edge loops are properly flowing, across the knuckle and under the knuckle. So your quads on top are going to be slightly larger than your quads on bottom, of course, because of the current pose of the hand. So that's pretty normal. You want to be careful on the index finger and the pinky finger because they don't flow into another finger off one side. It can be a bit tricky, so I just do a quick double check to make sure that I've still only got eight rings or eight quads going around my ring, because sometimes I'll screw up and end up with one too many or one too little, and it does screw up the rest of your topology later on when that happens because your uh, your math starts to not work out. And then here I'm trying to get a nice little loop for good deformation across those pads under the fingers. So I'm just measuring all of this up, and you can see I'm pinching together some of these vertices to bring them down into less polys. And I'm just quickly getting that U loop for each of them. That U loop is used a lot to bring down the polygon count for areas that are in high detail down to lower detail where it's not needed quite as much. And then here I'm just pulling out a single quad so I can get a smoother pull on that full, well, I guess not full loop, but half loop. And then once again, I'm pinching edges together and then creating this U loop. So I'm bringing four down to two, basically. and then I just keep building out. So here, very important that when you pull out from the index finger into the thumb, you can see that that loop that goes alongside, it's the top of the two side quads, is also going into the same edge loop on the thumb. It's going to match up with the loop or the edge flow that flows into the, top side edge loop of that thumb knuckle. So you definitely want to make sure that you pull that out and measure that up so that you get really nice flow for your index finger into your thumb, because they are obviously very much connected. The movement of one can affect the other. Um, and then from here, I just start laying out that loop for the palm so that it's got its own almost like separate area of the hand and how it deforms. So, and then I do the same thing for that pad that goes along the other side of your hand. So this is going to go from the outside half of your ring finger to the outside half of your pinky finger, just on the opposite side of the hand. So that's a very important edge loop. If you want to, slow down the video or pause it at this point, definitely, if you're not quite sure about that, pause it, take a look, make sure that you've got everything measured up right, because those loops are very important for your animation. So here I'm just kind of measuring out, like, how exactly do I want to join these up? Do I have the right number of loops? Do I need to add in more or take away? So I'm just going through and eyeballing everything, trying to get an idea on my math on stuff, how I want to move stuff. So it's very important to, keep an eye and check out these things. And here I'm once again creating another U loop, cutting my polys down wherever I can. And then we're just getting this all joined up. So start filling out this loop. So the way that these loops come together is quite important. You can see where I've got the pole in between that index finger and thumb, right where it's going to pinch. Very important to have that pole in the right place. For those that don't know, a pole is a vertice that has 5 edges coming out of it. Technically 5 or more, but you typically don't really want more than 5 or 6. So I'm just, continuing to work stuff down, make sure it matches up, make sure that my edge flow is flowing with the organic nature of the hand as nice as possible. And when you do it in this method, it's a lot easier to add and subtract extra sections where needed. So here I'm creating a bit of a U-loop inside that pad to cut down my polys a bit so I can get down into that wrist a little bit easier once I start working to that point. Because I'm starting to think about the wrist now. I'm starting to think like, okay, where do I need to try and cut down polys? So I'm going to do the top side of the hand. And again, this is going to go into multiple U loops to bring down the polys so that I can eventually get from like the 32 or whatever it is around the hand down into 8 eventually. So you can see when you do these U loops, very important that a, a U loop is from 5 edges. So there's the 2 on the outside and the 3 that you're collapsing in the middle. Um, so I believe that there's a spot in this where, actually I think it's this next spot where I'm like, I pinch it in the wrong places. See, I didn't leave an edge in between them. So I need to go one over. Oh, and I didn't even pick up on my mistake the first time. There it is. So now I've got that edge in between. Very important that that's there. Otherwise, the whole thing doesn't work. And then I just continue to bring that down. And I'm trying to find just where this is going to all come together for the wrist. I can see right now that it doesn't quite work. So I need to do some fixing here to get stuff measured up just right. So I'm just kind of working through like, okay, where do I want this flow to go? How do I want this to come together? So just, going back and forth, seeing what edges I have, where I can possibly remove or add to get that flow just right. So I've got a triangle there that I need to get rid of. And I saw the perfect opportunity to get that loop in there. So I can cut this down. So we're, getting into a pretty good spot. So there's pulling down. And I think I realized that, yeah, I can't really do that pinch because I don't have edges in between. So I'm trying to find where exactly I can do this. And I'm showing off that I've currently got 24 edges that I need to bring down into 8. So I need to divide that by 3 to get it down to the right size. So there's the underside of the wrist. That's already done. This needs to come together. So I'm just trying to find where exactly this is going to match up to get this right. Yeah, I'm just getting everything cleaned up, getting it all put together so that it's all quadded out. Yeah, so now I'm just quickly showing off how the edge loops work. Just so you can see exactly where everything flows and goes to. So that, you'll get good deformation with a setup like this or very similar to this. And you can tell that the deformation makes sense. Now, I didn't finish all the fingers because I think finishing the fingers is fairly obvious. But here I'm just going to show off how to quickly add in a little extra detail for knuckles. So there's one of the knuckles, and then going down into the fingers. A slightly different but similar method for getting knuckles in. I think this one works better for these types of knuckles because you're going to get a little bit better pinch doing it this way. So now I know I screwed up there. Just realized I'm like, okay, let's fix this. So we're just getting this all matched up, getting that very common U loop that I use in a lot of areas into that, and I'm just, there's a little extra geometry for knuckles just to show people how to do that. And then for anybody that actually wants to have extra detail for the fingernail, this is basically how I do my fingernails. If it's something where I want to be able to capture a lot of that extra detail for the fingernail, but you can also do it much simpler. So here I show off a few different methods. So yeah, like the simpler finger, this one, for example, I don't have the extra detail for the fingernails, but I could very easily add it in. That's the beauty of the way that this 8-sided quads works. Um, and this one I've got, a fair amount of detail in, like a 1700 poly hand is, that's a fair amount of detail, but you can see it's a very similar layout to what I did in that time lapse that we just watched. If I just quickly grab this. So why is this not? So that. These loops, same idea. We've got that U loop, and then I've got, that same pad. Um, this one I've got moving a bit differently because it's down into 16 rather than 8. If we look at the edges here, you can see it's a 16 edge loop wrist, and I could take it down further if I needed it to be 8. Because a lot of times I won't typically redo certain pieces over and over and over again for each uh, low poly that I do. Um, a lot of the times I'll just grab a piece like this. I have a few different hands that I keep, and I'll just slap them on and make adjustments as needed. Like if I needed to, have the extra detail for fingernails on this mesh, or even if I wanted to bring down the detail on this mesh, that's super easy to do. I can just, quickly, actually that's probably not the, it's doesn't take much to bring the detail down if you need to. It's all a matter of, what's needed for the project that you're working on. But you can see, very similar idea to my last. I actually haven't U looped these properly yet. That's definitely something that I should take care of so that they're quadded out properly. And it's, super easy to do. Just, toss in those edges, delete those edges, and there you are. And if you want to move some vertices around, make sure you turn on surface slides so that you're not ruining the flow of the surface for that quad draw. Let's just get that back down to. And then this is a hand that isn't fully finished, but it's one that I did that wasn't a quad draw, and it's just showing off, a very similar style, but not exactly the same. This is a bit lower poly. It's not completely finished yet. Like I need to put a loop or two through here. Like I'll probably bring this down, put a loop here, put a loop here, get that into a U. But it's just another way of showing a more simplified poly while still getting, you know, the basic shapes. So if we go into so you can see it's not quite there yet, but it's a pretty solid low poly. I'm still doing 2 spaces between the fingers and then getting that down into quads a little bit differently for the knuckles. Um, a bit simpler representation for those knuckle spots. Um, and then, but I've also shown off the fingernail method in this one as well, so you can see like when it's smoothed out, there's a proper fingernail there. So, you know, hopefully this video helps people and gives you some decent reference for how you want your hands to look for, decent edge flow and good deformation into your animation. Um, if you have any questions, comments, please let me know. I hope this helps somebody. have a great day, everybody. Thank you.